Hi everyone, this is Freddie with Superbike Unlimited, and we've got another update for the V4R Superbike project, and I'm pretty excited about this one. It's a small intro and update, but something that I think is really going to help me personally. I briefly mentioned in another video that I felt that the clamp and fork combination that we have right now, I felt a little too much flex, and basically what I was feeling is that on really aggressive trail braking at Barber specifically in the turn 2 area, I just noticed that the front end didn't feel as stable and planted as I wanted, and they just felt like there was movement basically. And was running a Dunlop front tire with a substantial amount of pressure, so I knew the tire wasn't kind of moving around, but that's sort of what it felt like. It sort of felt like a low pressure tire on a softer carcass, which is the opposite of what I had. So we narrowed it down to the fact that the front fork, which the version of the Öhlins fork that we have, is the more flexible variant of this Superbike fork, coupled with Steve at Evol Technologies ProFlex triple clamp. We think we just had a little too much flex. It's one of those things where it's neither one of those components is bad or wrong or anything like that, but when paired, it just seemed like they didn't have quite the effect. And it wasn't something that was ruining my whole session or anything. I just didn't like the feeling that I was getting out of some of those areas. So Steve at Evol, being really great about that kind of thing and always wanting to find solutions to potential problems, basically whipped up a new top clamp. And that's what we have here. This has come today. And essentially this is, for one, it's flat, which I really like because we are using a longer fork, and it's so that just from an aesthetic standpoint, we're not going to have as much fork sticking out. But also this is supposed to be much stiffer, and he's confident this is going to resolve what I was feeling before. So I'm really excited to put this back on and just see what happens. We're going to be riding this bike really soon, so I think we'll take that other one, of course, but I have a feeling that we're going to pop this guy on and probably never look back. So next we're going to take this top clamp off and put the new one on. One thing we like to do before we put this stuff on is we're just going to compare weights. So it'll be interesting to see. This does look quite a bit different from the unit that's on there, so we're just going to see what it weighs. So 548 grams. And we'll put the other version on as soon as it comes off, which Tex is in the process of doing now. Obviously, aesthetically, they're quite different, so it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like installed. Okay, we've got the other one off. You can see here there's quite the difference in terms of aesthetic. They really look radically different, actually, and we'll see potential weight differences. So 591 grams. So that one weighs a good bit more, about 40 grams more. So we'll lose a little bit of weight by switching to this other one. That's always a nice benefit. And of course, we do have tie hardware on our pinch bolts. So we're going to go ahead and pop that on. And it does look like we are mounting our reservoirs to that top clamp. It looks like that's going to change a little bit, but we probably will be able to keep our current setup. If nothing else, Tech said that we could probably just change our tubing and it'll be fine, but it looks like it's going to be pretty close. All right, Tex has got the new top clamp on. You can see really quite different. I actually kind of like the fact that we don't have so much of the Moto2 style fork thing going on like I mentioned before, but also we have a lot more flexibility now with our clip-on position. This gives us the ability to run it a bit taller, sort of like we do on the 10, and we'll start this way and now we can raise it up. I mean, that's substantial. That'll have a big difference in sort of, especially on the brakes and mid-corner, how much load we're pushing through the bars and on the inevitably on the front end of the bike. So that's cool. It's nice to have anything that can make this thing more tunable. I view as a positive. So that's something that we'll experiment with. But yeah, I kind of like this. I wasn't sure when I first saw it, but now that it's in place, I think it's actually a really nice looking aesthetic. It suits the bike really well. It's funny because I saw a photo of this top clamp on, I think it was on Steve's Instagram or something, and I had no idea what it was. So I was kind of surprised when it came out of the box and saw, oh, that was ours. So it's nice. We're really excited because we have some big updates. Namely, and the most important one, is that we're about to be able to ride this thing. And it's been a long time coming. I'm really excited to turn some laps. It's gonna be it's just gonna be cool to feel what this motorcycle is like now that we've got everything, set up and mostly dialed in, and also some changes. So For one, I want to say huge thanks to a really good friend, super nice guy from Moto Rapido. He basically, we were going to a racetrack where we have a noise limit, and we basically, our exhaust is super loud, deafening, frankly, and we like that, but this racetrack, Roebling Road, doesn't like it so much, more specifically their surrounding neighbors. So our good friend here sent us these. We kind of contacted him in a hurry because we had some of these on order, but they just haven't come in yet. I think they're going to arrive next week or something like that. And but there is a special silencer for this exhaust that's BSB spec, and it's a bit quieter. It still makes a good bit of noise, but definitely less than what we had. And that's what you see here. And we're just getting ready to wrap up fitting these. This exhaust has, you can see there's a hanger on these silencers, which is very different from the others. And inside there is kind of like a built-in mount on the pipe for that hanger to mate with. So that's what we're dealing with now. This is the original set of silencers. They literally just mount with the spring clips, or the springs rather. And this just uses a single spring and that mount that you see. So we're going to go ahead and put that on. And the other thing that's a big update is we're actually going to be running these guys. I've always been a really big fan of these tires. Of course, we've been using Dunlop last year, and basically while you've been watching this, I like those tires. They've been good, but I'm really excited to see what the new Pirellis are like. This is a new profile, the new World Superbike profile, as they're called, 265 rear. And then the front is a 125/70. And we're also told now that those who preferred the feel of the SC2 on the old Pirelli, you can run these SC1s and get a little bit better grip perhaps, and retain that stability and braking feel that we really so much loved on the old tire. So really excited just to get on this thing and do some laps. But we wanted to show you this new pipe. We're going to finish putting that on, and then we're just going to see what it sounds like. Okay, so Tex has gotten these buttoned up, and you can see everything's secured. We used some Zeta tie fasteners. He did note that there were some clips in place on the original brackets. They're around here somewhere. They're over here. That were 8 millimeters. This is one right here. Mm-hmm. And the holes on the actual silencers are only 6 millimeters. So instead of trying to like drill those out or something, Tex just opted to swap this for a 6 millimeter clip, and then we're able to use a 6 millimeter bolt that we already had, a couple of 10 millimeter length units. So now let's see what it sounds like in comparison to the original. All right, so Tex has gotten this all wrapped up. We're going to do a quick walk around. You may notice that some time has passed. We had some kind of a rush of customers and other stuff we had to deal with at the shop yesterday, so we had to take a break. But the system is installed. And, you know, the cans are obviously much larger, but I still think they look pretty cool. I think I prefer the look and style of the World SBK style canisters, but these have their own kind of cool look as well. Definitely a lot more noticeable, a lot more size going on there. But we're just gonna give this thing a quick test fire. She's still cold, and see what it sounds like. All right, everyone, we're going to begin wrapping this video up, and I think we're going to close this on a high note and a nice introduction for the next video. So obviously we haven't had a lot of updates to this bike recently. Frankly, it's at a very high level. We're really happy with it. Now what we really are working on is just developing the package, especially on the firmware side, trying to find the right balance on the motorcycle between the chassis and the electronics, just making everything work as good as we can. And of course, now that it's warming up, we have this opportunity to ride this thing and get it working and review data and make those changes. So what we're going to do, we're going to ride this thing this weekend at Barber Motorsports Park with our good friends Sport Bike Track Time. And so we're going to be working pretty extensively on that, but we're also going to test something that we constantly are getting questions about. And frankly, we've never used them, so we've never been able to provide feedback. And that is going to be these guys. These are Sicom brake discs, and what we'll do before we actually mount these up is do a weight comparison, but suffice it to say that they are massively lighter than anything else. They weigh practically nothing. These are carbon ceramic, so these don't have some of the effects, you know, allegedly, of a lot of the carbon stuff that you hear about. Oh, they only work when they're super hot, you know. This is not the same stuff that's MotoGP spec, where it's literally a carbon fiber brake disc with a carbon fiber brake pad that only works at crazy temperatures. It doesn't work that way. This is more like what you would see on an automotive application, your high-end sports and exotic cars that have these types of brakes. They work when they're ice cold. So it's the same type of technology. This manufacturer actually does make stuff for high-end sports applications, Lamborghini and GTRs and things like that. So yeah, we're going to test these things out. I think it's just going to be interesting. It's a little, you know, I've never heard of anybody doing like fast laps on these things. So in that regard, it's a little nerve-wracking for me because, you know, it's important that you have good brakes, but I think they're going to work just fine. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do some sessions with the regular standard brakes that we use. Then we're just going to pop on another front wheel with these guys and just see how they stack up. And we're told that they have specific pads that they're provided with, but you can use several other compounds. So you know, we may try both. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so next what we're going to do is a weight comparison, and then we're going to finish prepping these. We're going to put our awesome brand new Pirelli WSBK profile slicks on here, get ready to do some fast laps, and hopefully we like these brakes. They're amazing. They're going to certainly make the thing handle better. It's just going to see the key point is going to be how do they stop. Okay, so we're going to start with a weigh-in, and first we'll use this unit, which of course this is a 320 by 6, so basically the same spec as, or excuse me, 330 by 6, so same spec as the Sicoms, and this is an iron disc, so this actually is a little lighter than a steel. And we'll just do a quick comparison. $1,594 grams, 95. All right, let's say 1595. Oh, it's going up and down. Let's try it again. 0, 1595. And then in pounds and ounces, that's 3.5 pounds, basically. All right, so 3.5 pounds. And then this guy, £1.5 pounds, 1.79 ounce, or 681 grams. So by bolting these on, we are literally dropping 4 pounds off the front wheel, which is insane. I mean, that's generally what we see with a set of forged aluminum wheels, like a set of OZ Gas, which are among the lightest, or a set of Cormoto Apex 6s or something like that. On a 1000, that's what we see is a 4-pound loss. So, you know, this with a set of carbon wheels, for example, we could expect a loss of 15 plus pounds. Well, 15-ish. So that's just crazy to think of. So we're definitely going to pop these on. We do have a set of Rotobox wheels that we could technically use. We're thinking about putting them on there. The only thing is we need to have some custom spacers made. We'll have to reach out to some of our suppliers like Fast Frank and see if he wants to crank some out really quickly. But we actually do have these sitting back here that are not allocated to any orders or anything, so we could potentially put them on there. I would love to do that, and then it'd be awesome just to see what the whole bike weighs. But if nothing else, for now, we're just going to mount them on the OZs. But you know, of course, our bikes have custom spacers and not just for the wheels, but also for the actual brake discs. So it's not always easy to do things at the last minute like this. So we're going to see if we can do it. But if nothing else, we're going to mount these up as Tex is now on the OZ gas wheel. So we're back at the shop, as you can see, and we have missed our test, obviously. Yeah, and what we're doing here, Tex has just pulled off this stator, which has failed and caused us to not only not be able to finish our torque mapping on the dyno and some of our new strategy that we were testing and adjusting, but it's caused a complete mechanical failure. So the bike was unrideable in that state. So we did go ride anyway, worked on some stuff with the ZX10, which was still very important to us, but we missed some of the really key stuff we wanted to test. And of course, we never got to try out those crazy new brakes that we were so very curious about. So what's happened is we have a what's called a grounded stator, which means basically... Alrighty, so we are at the shop. We have missed our test on the V4, and I'll be honest, I'm probably going to say stuff I've already said in this video because I've already gone to the racetrack with our other ZX10R, did some testing, and worked on some other stuff. So, and unfortunately, my brain is at the point where it's pretty much like a full hard drive. So every time I learn something new, something has to get deleted. So I'm probably going to repeat myself. I'm sorry, but anyway, so what's happened? Of course, we've had a mechanical failure. I don't know how much I've gone into this already. So. Basically, we were testing our new strategy on the dyno just before we went to Barber to do our major test of not only the brakes, which obviously, you know, they look amazing, and we're going to do these carbon wheels. We were going to test a big change to our strategy just to try to find a little more performance out of this thing on the racetrack. And unfortunately, we were having some strange behavior and noticed that the voltages were not quite right. And Tex quickly did a test on the factory stator or generator and found that it had grounded, which basically means he explained to me that something has caused it to get too hot and some of the insulation on the windings here has melted. This is the original unit here, and we unfortunately that means that it's just no good. There's no real fix for that. It's just toast. And the other thing that really sucked is they're on national back order. We did find one place that had them. They were kind of gougy with the price. Didn't want to deal with that, and it wouldn't have helped anyway. We didn't have enough time to get this thing in. We still had to finish our work on the dyno, so it's best to just take a step back. So we did reach out to some friends overseas, and I want to give a huge shout out to Moto Rapido. They have a BSB team in British Superbike, obviously, and they have a Ducati dealership, and those guys are just awesome. We've known them for a long time. They've been able to come through in a pinch, and we checked with Ducati Detroit, of course, and our friends at Hudson Valley. Nobody had anything. Those are the great, you know, resources we have in the U.S. But whenever we struck out there, we contacted those guys, and they came through for us. And so we have another one that's going to go on, but yeah, missed our test. So don't get to tell you yet how these brakes are going to go. We're going to find an opportunity to use these things. We're just as eager to learn about them as you and feel this thing with an extra 15 pounds off of the rotating mass. But next, what we got to do is just swap these out. So the one that we got, this is the new one, right? Mm-hmm. It is basically, this is used obviously, and it did come with the case, and we got a great deal on it, relatively speaking. They're super expensive. And basically what Tex was showing me, just for you guys, because, you know, I'm not the most mechanically savvy guy all the time. I learn as I go, but I didn't know how to actually test one of these, and it's really easy. So basically this thing is supposed to be completely insulated from the ground of the case, right, Tex?
Correct. This is an isolated AC circuit.
All right. And
so if you can put your test meter on continuity or just on ohms, and doesn't matter which lead you use, and just test it to a ground spot. And if you see anything other than that, your stator is grounded and therefore is bad. And what happens is it still charges, it just doesn't put as much power into the regulator, so it doesn't keep the battery charged.
Okay. Yep. And apparently when that happens, it doesn't hurt anything else other than there's just not enough power. And that's what we were seeing, was strange things with our fuel injection. Inexplicable inconsistencies. I was like, what the hell's going on with this thing? It was just misbehaving. And we didn't run it long enough for the voltages to completely drop to some crazy number, but we could see, wait a minute, that looks a little low. We're looking at our Motec data on the dyno, and we're seeing this thing's running at full throttle and misbehaving for one, and we're seeing right at 12 volts instead of those high 13s or something. Just didn't seem quite right. So Tex immediately said, let's check some stuff, and he identified this. So that's where we are. And for what it's worth, I was gonna say, oh, this effing Ducati Italian crap, and start just bashing this thing because stuff is, we had a couple of things break on it. To be fair, from what I've been told, and I've asked a few people in World Superbike, obviously we asked the Moto Rapido guys, and I've asked a lot of guys, and apparently this is not a common failure. Maybe we're going to keep an extra one around because I don't ever want to deal with this again. But from what I'm told, the generator in these is actually supposed to be a very good, reliable part that doesn't really go bad. So, I don't know if it's something you guys need to worry about, but I think we just got unlucky on this one. We can't find any other reason. All of our wiring is sound. Everything is good on the motorcycle. So it seems we've just had a bit of bad luck. Happens sometimes. So we're going to fix it. Tex is going to pop the new one on, and then we're going to go back on the dyno, work on some stuff, and got to find another opportunity to test this stuff and see how it goes. Today we're at the track, and we're going to be testing both the V4R and the ZX10RR. We have some really exciting stuff that we're testing on both of these bikes, both major strategy changes. We're here at Carolina Motorsports Park, and we're riding with... Sorry about that, we've got calls going on, but as I was saying, we're here at Carolina Motorsports Park, and today we're actually riding with a track day organization called N2. Of course, we're often with STT, and N2 is actually hosting the practice day, as they often do for WERA, which is a race organization that we run with. They're going to be here this weekend. So basically what we're doing today is just doing a shakedown, testing a few things. Got to make sure that our issue that we had with this bike's been resolved. We think it has. All indications are that it's been fixed. We tested it on the dyno before we got here. It wasn't acting up, but we're just going to have to see if it's still doing it at speed. And of course, we have some really exciting new strategy. Actually, it's funny because somebody specifically mentioned in the comments of the last video exactly what it is that we're going to be testing in this. So I thought that was cool. And on this bike, totally different thing. We're trying to work on some torque control stuff, and I've ridden it a little bit this morning, and I can tell it's not quite there, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. It's interesting because for me, I actually feel sort of uncomfortable riding this bike, and as strange as it sounds, I'm not the best person at setting up my own ergonomics. That's something I think I need to improve. Obviously, you got to be comfortable on these things to go fast. And on the ZX10, when I get on it, I've been riding them for a while. It feels very natural to me. This bike still feels kind of foreign. I feel like I'm just kind of uncomfortable on it. So I'm still tweaking stuff. I've moved the rear sets down to the lowest and furthest back position. It seems like it's helping. I think I'm gonna move the bars forward a little bit just to kind of get me sprawled out on the thing a little bit more. And we'll see how that goes. But yes, this bike is feeling very fast. With the new strategy, it's working good. But next, we're gonna jump on this. I haven't ridden it at all today. So we'll do a little bit of onboard footage, hopefully get some decently quick laps. There's some fast guys here. Matthew Skoltz with Westby Racing is here. He completely blistered me earlier in the session, and it's always fun to see somebody of that extreme level of talent come flying by you and remind you that you're not as fast as you'd like to think. And so maybe you'll see some footage of him as well. Yeah, so next, like I say, we've just finished lunch, and we're going to try to get some laps in on this, and hopefully get some good footage for you guys. All right, so I'm back at the shop, and before we get into the next part of the video, we do have some riding footage for you guys. I want to give you some context because this video is going to be, as you can see, it's a bit disjointed. First of all, I want to apologize for that, just because honestly, I've been super busy around here. Obviously, this, as much as I would love to have the ability to make YouTube videos for you guys and focus on content full time, really this is my job, and I'm constantly being pulled in several different directions. So it's really hard for me to find the time to make this stuff. So I'm glad that you guys watch and enjoy it because it's what keeps us doing it. But I want to help explain some of the stuff that we're about to go into because I'm jumping all over the place in this video. So at the racetrack, during the practice day, so after lunch, the plan was to put the camera on and start getting some footage. Well, after lunch, I don't know if everybody, once they got food in their stomach, started just acting like fools or what, but it just was nothing but red flags. We had every session was red flagged. It was just one of those things where these guys just couldn't seem to stay off the floor, so to speak. Everybody was crashing. So then, I wasn't really necessarily planning on sticking around and racing that weekend just because I need to, but I've just been, I'm kind of rusty, and it's a little, I didn't want to just jump back in because I didn't feel like I was fully mentally ready. But since I barely got any laps in on the practice day, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stay through Sunday, do some sprint racing. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to cut to some footage of just that. I just dived right in. This guy's not entirely ready, but you know, I haven't raced any this year yet, so I'm basically at the back of the grid or close to it in all of my stuff. So doesn't make for the best situation, but you know what? We got some laps in, and you'll be able to see some of that. And we had some issues out there where the GPS is acting kind of strange. I think we're going to have to move it to where we have a little bit better clear view of the sky, because I noticed the lap timer wasn't working, and it was showing like the same lap on every time I would go out. I would just reference the lap time from previous session. So, man, looking at the data, it was all broken up. So, you know, it's just one of those things. But anyway, we did get some footage. We're going to go ahead and cut to that. And then, you know, I have some comments and stuff that we filmed at the track. So we'll show that for you as well. Wow, so this is my first race weekend back for the year, and man, I am not really happy with the pace that we had, and but you know, honestly, I survived it. I feel like a guy that hasn't raced in 7 months, and I probably look like a guy that hasn't raced in 7 months, but I still had fun, still had some battles. Nowhere near where I need to be in terms of lap time, and I'm not even close to my personal best on the old surface here, but that's okay. We're working on the bike. I actually feel like it's working pretty good. I am gonna make some small chassis changes. I think I might actually lower the whole bike just a little bit, but overall working really well. Unfortunately, we ran out of space on this SD. I need to get another one for the onboard stuff, but I had some moments today. We did catch up to a lapper in one of the races, and he ran off track and splashed some water on the track. And I passed him, you know, full gas at probably, you know, 30-40 degrees lean, and really had a nice moment. So, and I gave that guy a hand gesture. I want to apologize to that guy if you're watching this. So, honestly, not your fault, and I was being in a bad mood. But yeah, overall things went pretty good. Had some fun. If you guys kept up with us at Barber Motorsports Park with Andrew Lee last year, you may remember a moment that made a few highlight reels, which was that our front fender mounts exploded and a fender came off. Well, you'll see in that footage a moment where all of a sudden I tuck the front and there's like a weird scraping sound. That's what just happened, and unfortunately that's on me. I have been putting off making a new set of mounts for that fender for way too long, and here we are. That's what happens, and that fender is in a million pieces on the racetrack, so oh well, stuff happens. But really happy with this, and honestly, even though those moments I had, the near high side, I'm gonna look at the data and see if you can see any of that on there, because it probably showed up. And the front tuck, frankly, running these new Pirelli tires, they really saved my skin, because those things just reconnected when both of those instances happened, especially the near high side. I thought I was gone. had a moment where I just knew this thing is about to go flipping down the racetrack at 100 miles an hour, and there's going to be very little left, and the tires miraculously recaught traction and we went forward, so it was awesome. Same thing with that front tuck. That thing went away because it ran over a piece of the fender, I guess, and it just came right back. So props to those Pirellis. I'm actually going to go over and introduce you guys to the Pirelli guy in case you ever need some of those. We sell them as well, but if you're ever trackside, this is the guy you're going to want to see. So we'll just do a quick walk around. You can see the livery on the bike. Obviously it's just sitting in some dirt right now, so everything's working really good. We're testing this new torque control. I can tell there's some things that still need to be refined a little bit because there's areas where the bike's wheeling a bit when I don't want it to. Feels a little on the aggressive side, but overall working pretty good. And I am running quite an aggressive gearing, and the thing pulls like no other. Also, we did change our fuel strategy a bit, really because I had configured something in a way that was having an impact on the overall fuel map, and we had this stator issue. Seemed to have been affecting our fuel map a little bit, probably because we weren't getting correct charging voltage for a little while. So I've had to be rebuilding our fueling a little bit here using data while on track. So some of our fueling is not quite right, but it feels a lot better on that last race. There's still a couple of small areas, specifically exiting, I think it's turn 8 or something like that at the bottom of the hill straight away after the carousel. There's a little spot where I open the throttle and there's like a little miss right there. I'm gonna have to see what that is because it needs to be fixed. But yeah, thank you guys for riding along with me. I'm sorry that I didn't go faster, but hopefully the racing's fun to watch. And like I say, I'll pull up some data. We'll introduce you to James Bach, and I think that's gonna probably do it for this one. All right, so right now I'm in, basically this is like my favorite spot at the racetrack because this is where all of these awesome Pirelli tires are kept. And as promised, I'm gonna introduce you to the man. His name is James Bach. He is the owner and operator of Podium Motorsports. And this is the guy that if you're at the racetrack and need Pirellis, he's the guy to see. He knows everything about them, and he has anything and everything you may need.
Everything for anything modern sport bike with 17-inch rims and or super motard with a 16.5 front.
Yep.
That's
so
right.
This is the guy to see. I'll link to all of his stuff in the description. So if you need anything Pirelli, give this guy a shout.